The sound of her skull cracking against cold marble echoed through the luxury apartment like a gunshot. In that split second, Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum watched the woman he loved more than his own freedom collapse to the floor, her dark hair spreading across the pristine white stone like spilled ink. Just hours earlier, Priya Sharma had been planning their escape from Dubai. At 28, this Indian waitress had dared to love a man worth hundreds of millions, believing that passion could conquer the brutal realities of power and privilege. She was wrong. What started as stolen glances across an upscale restaurant had escalated into a secret affair that would destroy a business empire, expose the dark underbelly of Dubai's glittering facade, and cost two people everything they held dear. This isn't just another story about forbidden love. This is a chilling examination of what happens when ordinary people challenge the invisible boundaries that separate the powerful from everyone else. Tonight, I'm taking you inside the golden cage of Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum, where arranged marriages hide emotional prisons, where family honor trumps human life, and where one moment of rage transformed a love affair into a murder case that shocked the international community. By the end of the story, you'll understand why some secrets are too dangerous to keep, and why crossing certain lines doesn't just risk your reputation, it risks your life. This is the true story of how love became a death sentence in the City of Gold. In the next few minutes, I'll reveal the 3 critical mistakes that led to Priya Sharma's death and the complete destruction of the Al Maktoum family empire. You'll discover the psychological manipulation tactics used by powerful men to control their victims, the warning signs that everyone around them missed, and the exact moment when this affair crossed the line from dangerous to deadly. Most importantly, you'll learn to recognize the toxic power dynamics that exist in relationships where money, status, and family honor create impossible choices. This case exposes the brutal reality behind Dubai's perfect image and shows you why some love stories are actually psychological traps disguised as romance. I'll walk you through every calculated move, every red flag that was ignored, and every decision that brought them closer to that fatal night in the Marina apartment. But first, if you're ready to see how quickly paradise can become a nightmare, make sure you're subscribed because stories this dark don't stay hidden for long. Dubai, March 2023. The city where dreams are built on sand and fortunes rise faster than the temperature at noon. In the exclusive Emirates Hills district, behind gates that cost more than most people's homes, Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum lived what appeared to be the perfect life. At 42, he commanded respect wherever he walked. His business interests stretched across real estate developments that reshaped skylines, hospitality ventures that hosted world leaders, and oil trading deals that moved millions with a single phone call. His mansion showcased wealth that seemed limitless, Italian marble floors that reflected crystal chandeliers from Austria, while his garage housed a collection of luxury vehicles worth enough to fund entire villages. But money cannot purchase what the human heart craves most. For 15 years, Rashid had been married to Amira, daughter of another influential Emirati family. Their union was a strategic alliance, carefully orchestrated by fathers who viewed marriage as a business transaction rather than a matter of the heart. They appeared together at charity galas, smiled for photographers at cultural events, and maintained the facade that Dubai's elite expected from its power couples. Yet within the walls of their palatial home, they lived as strangers. Separate bedrooms, separate schedules, separate lives that only intersected when public appearances demanded it. Amira fulfilled her role as the perfect wife in public while pursuing her own interests privately. Rashid buried himself in work, using 18-hour days to avoid confronting the emotional emptiness that luxury could never fill. The weight of family expectations pressed down on him like the desert heat. Every decision required approval from his father and brothers. Every business move was scrutinized by relatives who viewed the family name as their most valuable asset. Every social interaction was calculated to maintain their reputation within Dubai's complex hierarchy of power and influence. His father reminded him constantly that their family's success came from discipline, tradition, and putting collective interests above individual desires. Personal happiness is a luxury we cannot afford, the old man would say during their weekly business meetings. Our name carries the responsibility of generations. Rashid had accepted this reality for decades. He told himself that duty mattered more than desire, that stability trumped passion, that a man of his position should be grateful for what he possessed rather than yearning for what he lacked. But acceptance and contentment are not the same thing. Have you ever felt trapped in a life that looks perfect from the outside? Where everyone assumes you should be grateful, while inside you're suffocating under the weight of other people's expectations. That was Rashid's existence. A golden cage decorated with every luxury imaginable, yet still a prison. By early 2023, the cracks in his carefully maintained composure were beginning to show. He had started taking longer lunch breaks, driving aimlessly through Dubai's older districts where anonymity was possible. He carried a vintage camera, forgotten since his university days, hoping to recapture some fragment of the passion he had abandoned for family duty. He was a man desperately searching for something real in a life built entirely on appearances. And that search was about to lead him straight into the arms of a woman who would change everything. Thursday evening, March 16, 2023. The humidity hung thick in the air as Sheikh Rashid escaped another suffocating board meeting where his brothers had questioned every decision he'd made that quarter. He needed space to breathe, somewhere his family name wouldn't follow him through every conversation. Zuma Restaurant in the Dubai International Financial Center became his refuge. The modern Japanese establishment offered dim lighting and the kind of anonymity that money couldn't buy in most places. Here, among Dubai's international business crowd, he could blend in as just another wealthy executive seeking solitude after a long day. That's when Priya Sharma entered his world. She moved through the restaurant with a confidence that immediately caught his attention. At 28, she possessed an elegance that had nothing to do with expensive clothes or jewelry. Her dark hair was pulled back professionally, but a few rebellious strands framed her face, softening features that spoke of both strength and vulnerability. What struck him most were her eyes, intelligent, observant, holding depths that suggested she understood far more about the world than her position as a server might indicate. Unlike the other staff who approached his table with the excessive deference his status typically commanded, Priya treated him with polite professionalism, nothing more, nothing less. When she placed his order before him, her movements were precise but unhurried. "The chef recommends pairing this with the sake selection on page 12, she mentioned casually, then moved on to the next table without lingering for his approval or reaction. Most people sought his attention, his validation, his favor. This woman simply did her job and walked away. For the first time in months, Rashid found himself genuinely curious about another human being. When she returned to refill his water glass, he complimented the presentation of his meal. Her response was refreshingly direct. "I'll make sure the kitchen staff knows you enjoyed their work." No artificial charm, no attempt to extend the conversation, no recognition of his importance. Just honest professionalism. That night, driving home through Dubai's neon-lit streets, he couldn't shake the memory of her voice, her understated grace, the way she'd smiled, genuinely smiled, when discussing the chef's techniques. Within a week, he had returned to Zuma 3 times, always requesting a table in her section. Each visit revealed new layers to Priya Sharma's story. She had arrived from Mumbai 8 months earlier, carrying dreams that extended far beyond serving tables to wealthy expatriates and local elite. Her younger brother was studying engineering back home, supported by the money she sent from her salary and tips. Her parents struggled with Mumbai's rising cost of living, particularly housing costs that consumed most of her father's modest income from his government clerk position. She spoke of her family with the kind of love that comes from sacrifice, the way people talk about those they would do anything to protect. During quieter moments, when the restaurant thinned out near closing time, their conversations began lasting longer. She learned that despite his wealth and status, he felt more isolated than she did in a foreign country thousands of miles from home. He discovered that her dreams included opening her own restaurant someday, combining traditional Indian flavors with modern presentation techniques she was learning at Zuma. These weren't the conversations he was accustomed to having. No business deals, no family politics, no social climbing disguised as friendship. Just 2 people sharing their hopes and fears in the neutral territory of late-night restaurant lighting. By the end of March, Sheikh Rashid was arriving just before closing time specifically to talk with Priya. He told himself these were innocent conversations, harmless connections with someone refreshingly honest in a world built on calculated interactions. If this story is already giving you chills about the power of forbidden attraction, you need to subscribe, because the dark psychology gets much deeper, and the warning signs everyone missed are about to become deadly obvious. What neither of them realized was that every conversation, every shared laugh, every moment of genuine human connection was drawing them deeper into a trap that would cost them both everything they valued most. April brought changes that neither Rashid nor Priya could have anticipated. What had started as innocent late-night conversations was evolving into something far more dangerous and far more intoxicating. The turning point came during Ramadan, when Zuma closed during daylight hours. Priya mentioned she planned to spend her free afternoons exploring Dubai's cultural offerings, something her work schedule rarely allowed. Rashid, seizing what seemed like an innocent opportunity, offered to show her the city's hidden gems that tourists never discovered. "I know places the guidebooks don't mention," he told her, careful to keep his voice casual. "The real Dubai, not the version they sell to visitors." Their first cultural tour took them to the narrow alleys of the Bastakia Quarter, where traditional wind towers rose against the modern skyline like fingers pointing to a simpler past. Walking through these historic streets, away from the glass towers and luxury malls, they felt invisible for the first time. In the old souks, surrounded by the scent of cardamom and frankincense, Rashid watched Priya bargain with vendors in broken Arabic, mixed with English and Hindi. Her laughter echoed off ancient walls as she successfully negotiated the price of a silver bracelet down to a fraction of the asking price. "You're better at this than I am," he admitted, genuinely impressed by her skill. "Growing up in Mumbai teaches you these things," she replied, slipping the bracelet onto her wrist. "Money is too precious to waste on pride." That afternoon, as they sat by the Dubai Creek watching traditional dhows load cargo bound for Iran and India, he found himself talking about dreams he hadn't shared with anyone in years. His abandoned photography, his desire to travel without bodyguards and business obligations, his frustration with a life that felt predetermined from birth. She listened without judgment, occasionally asking questions that revealed she understood the loneliness of living up to other people's expectations. When she spoke about missing her family's Sunday dinners and the weight of being their primary source of hope for a better future, he realized they shared the same burden, just from opposite ends of the economic spectrum. At the Dubai fountain that evening, watching water dance to classical music while the Burj Khalifa towered above them like a gleaming monument to ambition, the inevitable happened. As the fountain's finale sent water cascading into the night sky, he kissed her. The kiss lasted only seconds, but it changed everything. By June, Rashid had rented a discreet apartment in Dubai Marina under a business alias. The 42nd floor unit became their sanctuary twice a week, a place where titles and social hierarchies ceased to exist. Here, he wasn't a sheikh bound by family expectations. Here, she wasn't a waitress navigating Dubai's complex class systems. The apartment represented freedom they had never experienced. Rashid rediscovered his passion for photography, capturing intimate portraits that showed not just Priya's beauty, but the intelligence and strength that had first attracted him. They spent hours discussing literature, debating politics, sharing dreams of lives they might have lived in different circumstances. For Priya, the relationship brought experiences beyond her imagination. Designer clothes appeared in the apartment's closet, jewelry that sparkled like captured starlight waited in velvet boxes. Weekend trips to Abu Dhabi and Oman showed her a world of luxury she had only observed from a distance. But the emotional connection mattered more than material gifts. With Rashid, she felt intellectually valued, romantically cherished, and emotionally understood in ways she had never experienced. He saw her as an equal, not as someone whose purpose was to serve others. The warning signs were accumulating like storm clouds on a clear horizon. Priya's co-workers at Zuma noticed her distraction during shifts, the expensive watch she tried to hide beneath long sleeves, the confidence that radiated from someone who felt truly desired for the first time. At home, Amira observed her husband's improved mood with growing suspicion. His energy had returned, his mysterious business dinners occurred with suspicious regularity, and he hummed while getting dressed, something she hadn't witnessed in years. Do you know someone whose secret relationship destroyed everything they built? Someone who convinced themselves they could manage the impossible balance between duty and desire, between public image and private truth. Because that's exactly what Rashid and Priya believed they were doing. Managing an impossible situation through careful planning and absolute discretion. They had no idea that their secret was already exposed, photographed, and documented by people who viewed their love affair as a threat that needed immediate elimination. September 12, 2023. Ahmad Al-Maktoum sat in his brother's office, studying quarterly reports that didn't add up. Rashid's frequent absences from crucial meetings, his distracted demeanor during family gatherings, and his sudden interest in expanding business relationships had triggered Ahmad's suspicions. As the younger brother and business partner, Ahmad had always been the detail-oriented one, the family member who noticed discrepancies others missed. Rashid's behavior patterns over the past 6 months created a puzzle that demanded solving. The credit card statements told the first part of the story. Expensive jewelry purchases from stores Amira never visited. Restaurant charges at times when Rashid claimed to be in business meetings. Hotel bookings in Abu Dhabi and Oman that corresponded to no documented business activities. But suspicious spending alone wouldn't justify the nuclear option Ahmad was considering. He needed concrete evidence before confronting his brother about behavior that could destroy their family's carefully constructed reputation. The private investigator Ahmad hired was a former British intelligence officer who specialized in discreet surveillance for Dubai's wealthy families. His assignment was simple: document Rashid's activities during his mysterious absences, identify any threats to family interests, and provide photographic evidence of whatever was consuming his brother's attention. 3 weeks later, the investigator's report arrived like a death sentence delivered in a manila envelope. Photograph after photograph showed Rashid entering and leaving the Marina apartment with the same woman, a young Indian woman whose restaurant uniform identified her as service industry staff. Long lens shots captured intimate moments through apartment windows. Embraces, kisses, the unmistakable body language of lovers who believed themselves safely hidden from the world. The investigator's background check on Priya Sharma revealed information that made Ahmad's blood run cold. A waitress at Zuma restaurant. Working in Dubai on a standard employment visa. Family in Mumbai dependent on her income. Everything about her background screamed vulnerability and potential scandal. On Tuesday morning, October 3rd, Ahmad spread the photographs across Rashid's mahogany desk like evidence in a courtroom. Each image was numbered, dated, time-stamped. The documentation was thorough, professional, and devastating. Have you lost your mind? Ahmad's voice carried the controlled fury of someone who had built his entire life around calculated decisions. Do you understand what this represents? What it could cost us? Rashid stared at the images of himself and Priya, moments he had believed were private, now reduced to evidence of his transgression against family expectations and social order. It's not what you think, he began, but the words sounded hollow even to himself. It's exactly what I think. You're having an affair with a waitress, a foreign waitress. Ahmad's tone grew colder with each word. Do you know what the media would do with this story? What our business partners, our religious partners, would think about a married Al-Maktoum man publicly humiliating his wife with service staff. The ultimatum was delivered with military precision. End the affair immediately, or face public exposure that would destroy not just Rashid's reputation but the entire family's standing in Dubai society. Their business empire depended on relationships built over generations. A scandal of this magnitude could collapse decades of carefully maintained alliances. Rashid had 1 week to resolve the situation. When he met Priya at their Marina apartment that Thursday evening, his distress was impossible to hide. Over dinner that neither could finish, he explained about the photographs, the confrontation, the choice he was being forced to make. So what are you saying? Priya's voice remained steady despite tears gathering in her eyes. I need time to think, to find a solution. There is no solution, Rashid. There are only choices. Her words cut through his denial like steel. You can choose your family's expectations, or you can choose us. The next part of the story will shock you, But if you're not subscribed, you might miss the most important lesson about power and consequence. Because what happened next changed everything. 3 agonizing days. That's how long Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum wrestled with the impossible choice between everything he had been born to inherit and the only authentic love he had ever experienced. On one side lay his family's empire, hundreds of millions in assets, business partnerships spanning continents, social status that opened doors across the Middle East. Choosing Priya meant losing his inheritance, watching decades of family achievement crumble, and becoming an outcast from the only world he had ever known. On the other side stood a woman who saw him not as a title or a bank account, but as a man capable of growth, passion, and genuine connection. Losing Priya felt like losing the only part of his soul that remained his own. By Sunday evening, October 8th, his decision crystallized with startling clarity. Money could be earned again. Status could be rebuilt. But finding someone who loved him for his character rather than his connections, that was irreplaceable. His hands trembled as he called Priya at 11:47 p.m. "Let's leave Dubai. Tonight. I have accounts in Switzerland and Singapore that my family can't touch. We can disappear before they realize what's happening." The silence on the other end stretched for 10 seconds that felt like eternity. "Are you absolutely certain?" Priya's voice carried hope wrapped in terror. "Once we do this, there's no returning to the life you've always known. I've never been more sure of anything. This isn't living. It's performing for an audience that will never be satisfied." They agreed to meet at the Marina apartment at midnight to finalize their escape plan. Rashid would bring his passport, emergency cash, and account information for funds he had quietly moved offshore over the past 2 years. Priya would pack only essentials. They could buy everything else once they reached safety in a country where family honor couldn't reach them. Rashid arrived first, pacing the apartment like a man preparing for war. Adrenaline and terror coursed through his system in equal measures. Every sound from the hallway made him freeze, wondering if Ahmad had discovered his plan. When Priya entered at 12:03 a.m., she found him standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows, staring out at Dubai's illuminated skyline, a view he was seeing for the last time. "I keep thinking about my father's face when he realizes what I've done," he said without turning around. 50 years of building this empire, and his eldest son throws it all away for love. Priya approached him slowly, placing her hands on his shoulders. "We're doing the right thing. We deserve happiness more than we deserve approval." That's when they heard the key turning in the lock. Ahmad had discovered the apartment's location through credit card records and security camera footage from the building's parking garage, but he hadn't come alone. 2 men in dark suits followed him through the door, private security contractors the family employed when situations required absolute discretion. "I gave you 7 days, Ahmad announced, his voice carrying the finality of a judge delivering a sentence. "You chose poorly. Here's the truth about powerful men that society doesn't want to acknowledge. They genuinely believe their money and influence place them above the consequences that govern ordinary people's lives. They've spent so long buying their way out of problems that they lose all understanding of situations that can't be resolved with bribes, threats, or family connections." Ahmad wasn't there to negotiate. He was there to eliminate a problem that threatened everything his family had built. What happened next would be debated in courtrooms for months, with each participant providing a different version of events. According to Ahmad's testimony, Priya grabbed a crystal vase from the coffee table when she realized they intended to force her departure from Dubai permanently. In the struggle, she struck Ahmad across the head, opening a gash that immediately began bleeding. Rashid's account painted a different story. He claimed Ahmad's security team moved to physically restrain Priya when she refused to sign documents renouncing all claims to contact with the Al Maktoum family. In defending her, Rashid pushed one of the men away from her. Both versions agreed on the tragic outcome. During the struggle, Priya lost her balance and fell backward toward the kitchen area. Her head struck the corner of the marble counter with a sound that Ahmad later described as like a branch breaking. The crack of bone against stone echoed through the apartment, followed by a silence that seemed to stretch into infinity. Priya Sharma collapsed onto the cold marble floor, dark hair spreading around her head like spilled wine on white fabric. Blood began pooling beneath her skull, and her breathing became shallow, irregular, then stopped entirely. At 12:31 a.m. on October 9, 2023, the waitress who had dared to love above her station died on the floor of the sanctuary that was supposed to represent their freedom. Ahmed's first instinct was damage control. Within minutes of Priya's death, he was orchestrating a cover-up with the precision of someone accustomed to making problems disappear. His security team immediately called a private medical examiner known for discretion rather than accuracy. The initial police report classified Priya Sharma's death as an accidental fall during a domestic dispute. Dubai's law enforcement, while professional, operated within a system where influential families possessed considerable sway over how investigations proceeded. For 3 weeks, it appeared the Al Maktoum name would shield them from consequences once again. But Priya's death didn't occur in a vacuum. Her co-workers at Zuma remembered the expensive jewelry she had started wearing, the secretive phone calls during break periods, and the wealthy Arab man who consistently requested her section. When news of her death reached the restaurant, servers began sharing stories about her mysterious relationship with someone clearly above her social station. The Indian consulate in Dubai started asking uncomfortable questions. Why had one of their nationals died in a luxury apartment she couldn't possibly afford? Who was paying the rent on a marina unit worth more than she would earn in 5 years? Why were there no witnesses to this supposed domestic accident? International media attention, initially focused on Dubai's endless parade of success stories, began examining the Emirates' darker corners. Investigative journalists from London, Mumbai, and New York started requesting interviews with Priya's family, her co-workers, and anyone connected to her final months in Dubai. Under mounting pressure from human rights organizations and the Indian government, Dubai authorities reopened the investigation. This time, security camera footage from the marina building received forensic analysis. Digital specialists recovered deleted text messages between Rashid and Priya that revealed the depth of their relationship and the family pressure that had been building. The trial that followed exposed truths that Dubai's elite preferred to keep buried. Witness testimony revealed a pattern of powerful men treating foreign workers as disposable objects for their entertainment, believing wealth could purchase immunity from moral and legal consequences. Evidence presented in court painted a devastating portrait of systematic abuse of power. Credit card records, hotel receipts, apartment rental agreements. Every transaction told the story of a wealthy man purchasing a relationship with someone who had no real power to refuse his advances. Rashid's defense team argued that he genuinely loved Priya and never intended her harm. They portrayed him as a victim of family pressure, a man torn between duty and desire who made tragic but understandable choices. The prosecution countered with evidence of calculated manipulation. The secret apartment, expensive gifts designed to create dependence, and the threat of deportation that hung over Priya's head if she ever displeased her powerful lover. After 8 months of testimony, the verdict delivered justice that money couldn't buy. Rashid received 12 years for involuntary manslaughter. Ahmad was sentenced to 5 years for his role in the cover-up attempt and evidence tampering. The Al Maktoum business empire, once worth hundreds of millions, began collapsing under international scrutiny. Partners withdrew from deals, investors demanded their money back, and regulatory agencies launched investigations into every aspect of their operations. If you're not sharing this story, you're part of the problem. These stories need to be told because they expose the systems that allow powerful people to treat others as expendable. The family that had believed themselves untouchable discovered that some crimes create consequences that wealth cannot eliminate. Priya Sharma's death became more than a tragic headline. It transformed into a symbol of systemic exploitation that extends far beyond Dubai's borders. Her family in Mumbai, devastated by their loss, channeled their grief into action by establishing the Priya Sharma Foundation, dedicated to protecting women seeking employment opportunities abroad. The foundation provides resources that Priya never had: legal advice about employment contracts, emergency contact systems for workers facing dangerous situations, and financial support for families whose daughters encounter abuse in foreign countries. Her death gave voice to thousands of women working in similar vulnerable positions across the Gulf states. This case exposes critical lessons about power dynamics that exist in every society, not just among Dubai's elite. When someone with wealth and influence pursues someone dependent on their goodwill for survival, the relationship starts corrupted from day one. Priya couldn't truly consent to this affair because saying no might have cost her the job that supported her entire family. The most chilling lesson is how easily powerful people convince themselves they're doing nothing wrong. Rashid genuinely believed he loved Priya, but love doesn't create secret apartments and hidden relationships. Love doesn't put the other person's safety and reputation at risk while protecting your own interests. His family's response reveals another ugly truth. When reputation matters more than human life, murder becomes an acceptable solution to embarrassment. Ahmad didn't set out to kill Priya, but he was willing to destroy her life to protect their family image. The deeper truth this story teaches is that money cannot buy freedom from consequences. It can only delay them. Every secret creates vulnerability. Every lie requires additional lies to maintain it. Every abuse of power eventually meets resistance. If this story didn't make you think twice about the power imbalances around you, you weren't paying attention. And that's exactly why you need to hit subscribe, because these stories save lives when people recognize the warning signs before it's too late. 2 lives destroyed by forbidden passion. A business empire worth hundreds of millions reduced to bankruptcy and scandal. An entire family's reputation demolished by one night of violence in a luxury apartment. Sheikh Rashid Al Maktoum thought his wealth could buy him love without consequences. Priya Sharma believed passion could overcome impossible power differences. Ahmad Al Maktoum assumed family honor justified any action, including murder. All of them were catastrophically wrong. Thank you for staying with me through this difficult story. I know these cases aren't easy to hear, but they contain lessons that could save someone you know from making similar fatal mistakes. The warning signs were there, the secrecy, the power imbalance, the family pressure, but everyone chose to ignore them until it was too late. If this story opened your eyes to the dangerous psychology of forbidden relationships, hit that like button and subscribe for more true crime cases that expose the dark side of wealth and power. Make sure you turn on notifications because next week, I'm covering another shocking case involving a tech billionaire whose obsession with a college student led to a murder that rocked Silicon Valley. Tell me in the comments, what warning signs do you think people missed in this case? What would you have done differently if you were in Priya's situation? Until next time, stay safe and remember, some secrets are too dangerous to keep.